of a weird time right now, huh? We're approaching Christmas, and then we got that twilight zone of a week between Christmas and New Year's, and it doesn't feel like too much is happening. At least that's what some people want us to think. We've got two major principles here. President Donald Trump, who has not given up, and we have former Vice President Joe Biden. And if you watch him very closely, I don't see a confidence. I don't see a transition team that is really behaving like a traditional transition team. I have the sense that they're worried. I do know things are happening that aren't receiving much attention. There's a case in Michigan that's before the Supreme Court. The Pennsylvania case that has great merit constitutionally, according to the experts like Alan Dershowitz, that is still before the Supreme Court. January 6th, who knows what can happen. Constitutionally, lawmakers are allowed to make objections. Not receiving much attention, but it can happen. All right? Now, I admit I was very disappointed when that Texas lawsuit from the Attorney General against the four swing states went nowhere. They did not want to even hear the case, the Supreme Court. Some of us were very disappointed, and others were wondering, the justices, why did they not want to hear anything about it, not even hear it? Well, we heard something today from a Congressman, Mike Patrick. He's a Republican from Texas, and he heard some very interesting information, and he shared it with the world.
When the Texas case was brought up, he said he heard screaming through the walls as Justice Roberts and the other liberal justices were insisting that this case not be taken up. When Justice Thomas and Justice Alito were citing Bush versus Gore from John Roberts, were, I don't give a about that case, I don't want to hear about it. At that time, we didn't have riots. So what he was saying was that he was afraid of what would happen if they did the right thing. And I'm sorry, but that is moral cowardice.
Interesting, right? And a lot of us have been wondering, what are the justices thinking? You know, they've got a great big job, very prestigious, lifetime appointments, but they are just human beings. Are the justices afraid of riots? That's what the congressman, that's what he heard. Let's go ahead and take a look at that. Could these fine men and women be afraid of riots? Could they be afraid of people showing up at their house? You betcha. It's a human emotion. They do have some cases before them. Let's see what happens. Now, I mentioned January 6th. Again, mainstream media not paying much attention to this, but we talked about the objections that were raised in 2000, and even more recently, back in 2005, sorry about that. After George W. Bush was reelected, there was some concern about long voter lines in Ohio. Was there suppression? And the Congresswoman stepped forward, and she had the backing of a U.S. Senator.
I, Stephanie Tubbs Jones, a representative from the state of Ohio, and Senator Barbara Boxer, a senator from California, have objected to the counting of the electoral votes of the state of Ohio on the ground that they were not, under all the known circumstances, regularly given. I raise this objection to debate the process and protect the integrity of the true will of the people.
And she had the backing of Senator Barbara Boxer, and they had to debate the issue for a couple of hours. Of course, George W. Bush was reelected, but there is precedence for this kind of conversation. We're already hearing from members of Congress who are ready to step forward and say they object. Now, I think we had Congressman Jordan yesterday. He said he would. Congressman Brooks may step forward, but they need a United States Senator. And it could be one of these guys. The one on the far left there, that's Tuberville, Senator-elect. He's not in office yet, but he will be by January 6th. And, of course, we've got Ted Cruz, and that's Josh Hawley from Missouri. Could one of these step forward with a member of Congress? If I had to bet, I would bet. I would bet on that happening. All right, meanwhile, as we raise these concerns, the mainstream media and their friends on...
Folks, this is very important. Listen to the next question it tells you that I believe that the Senate might be acting in secrecy. Listen to the question and the answer.
Let's take this on. You mentioned the mainstream media. For a long time, I didn't really care. I was kind of amused by how biased they were, and I left it at that. But now we're seeing, this is information, unless you went looking for it, unless you engaged conservative media, you would not have known about the very serious allegations surrounding Hunter Biden, the very serious issues, and that had a real impact on the election. A lot of folks, I believe, would have changed their mind had they known more about, the money from the Moscow mayor's widow. That has not been debunked. So it's
There's the
deeply
question
troubling.
coming
Anyway,
up.
where do you go from here? Oh, actually, let me ask you about January 6th first. You know what happens on January 6th. You need a congressman, a member of Congress, and you need a senator to raise an objection to seating those electoral votes. Will you be one of those members?
Look, unless there's evidence in the court, I'm not sure yet. I think we have to see what the evidence is. We have to be able to present it. We have to build a case to the American public. And knowing what you said, that you've got, I shouldn't even call it mainstream media, quite frankly, Greg. And really, you shouldn't even call yourself conservative media. Look, I know you're a prime time, at night opinion guy. I got that. But when I watch your news during the day, I actually see news that I remember seeing when I was a kid. Like, I don't think it's conservative. I think it's just reporting things as you see them. And I think there's several news operations that are doing that. The mainstream media, we got used to calling them mainstream media, but really what they are is they're just an arm of the Democratic National Committee. And I've, for a long time have been encouraging, after being personally attacked and slandered nearly on a daily basis by every news media organization in this country, what I've been trying to get my colleagues to do is not to talk to these people. Just don't talk to them. There's no reason. All you're doing is giving these so-called mainstream media outlets, you're giving them credibility. I don't talk to them. I don't look at them in the hall. If I happen to bump into them here in Washington, I just ignore them. And if they get in my face, although with COVID time, of course, none of this has been happening. But I take out my camera sometimes and I interview them if I have to.
Well, that's actually that's a great idea.
That typically gets rid of them.
And print folks can be the worst because you talk to them for 20 minutes and then they take the 8 seconds that they like or that proves their point and fits their template, and they forget about everything else, and they can make anybody look like a jerk. At least when you're on TV, you know it's your voice, you know what you're saying. All right, I understand, and I respect your answer, by the way. You're not sure yet, and you need to see more. What's your sense on the other side? You got friends in the Senate, I'm sure. I don't think one has gone on the record yet to say, yes, I will. Barbara Boxer did it in 2005. I can't imagine that one senator won't come forward. We already know Jim Jordan will, Mo Brooks. Do you think one senator we can count on?
Look, I don't know. I've talked to a few of the senators this week since I'm back here in the swamp right now. I do believe it's going to take some very substantial evidence. You just had General Flynn on. I think there's some questions that I have that need to be answered. Like, number one, the tapes in Georgia, those ballots. What the hell went on there? And I want to know also who owns Dominion. Who owns that company? They're running in 30 states in this country. We're using their machines. We ought to know who owns them.
Were you ever in the dairy business before politics? What did you do before politics?
Well, I grew up on a farm and ran a dairy, and I'm in the vineyard business. So I'm in the great San Joaquin Valley of California.
Love it, love it. Thank you very much, Congressman Devin Nunes. Enjoy the break. Merry Christmas, and we'll have you back soon. Thank you very much.
Folks, you heard it right there. Oops. Yeah, I'm typing. Okay. You heard it right there. I think they're acting in secrecy. You have the potential riots that they're afraid of. And if you listen to Devin Nunes again, you'll see that they don't want to let us know what's going on.